I call the Planning Commission meeting for March 3rd, 2022 to order, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Paul, you please call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Haddon.
Here.
Mr. Perkovic.
Excused.
Ms. Small.
Here.
Mr. Thiedemann.
Here.
Mr. Varga.
Here.
Mr. Crocker.
Here.
Mr. Cook.
Here. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting on February 10th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Paul, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon.
Yes.
Ms. Small.
Yes.
Thiedemann.
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker.
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. On tonight's agenda, we have one public hearing, and we will follow this format. First, the applicant will have the opportunity to explain what they would like to do at a particular location. Second, anyone wishing to speak in favor of this proposal will be given the time to do so. Finally, anyone wishing to speak in opposition will also be afforded the time to do so as well. Or some people may just have questions, and we'll try to get those answers. And with that, we have a conditional use permit to allow a drive-through facility, Popeyes, at 7635 Manor Avenue. Is that applicant here? Please come up and state your name and address and tell us a little bit about what you want to do regarding the conditional use permit aspect.
Hi there. My name is Paul Sidhu of Sidhu Realty Capital. We are planning to do business as Popeyes Louisiana Kitchen. We have been looking at this site for quite some time to identify it for a potential QSR use. And so our goal here is to own, develop, and operate a Popeyes restaurant in the site at 7635 Manor.
Okay, and you've read the staff report?
Yes, correct.
Okay, is there anybody here wishing to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anybody here wishing to speak against this proposal? This public hearing is closed, and it's 7:02. Kathy, is there anything from the administration?
Mr. Chairman and the members of board, I would just draw your attention to the updated site plan that is on the screen. That came after the staff report and mailings went out. It does show some updates with regard to the site, also the architectural, which we'll get to in a moment. But you will note, at least from the standpoint that there are two handicap parking spaces that have been identified as being up front, which will require the developer to modify the front access, because currently the handicap access is in the rear of the building. So,
Okay, thank you. Did you pay close attention to the conditions on the conditional use permit, number 2, regarding
The zoning
the stacking?
or the stacking?
If you get out on the Manor
Yes.
Avenue?
So a couple things to that point, and I can address Kathy's concern too. So the handicap parking, initially up front, with this design and with this site plan, we have some flexibility based on what the city would also suggest. So those
We'll get to the site plan in a minute. Let's just
but
talk about the
stacking-
drive-through.
Yeah, the stacking for the drive-through, which was my second point, was that, we do have the flexibility to move that further up, and, potentially my architects could talk about it, where the current drive-through is existing. So that would eliminate some of the stacking concerns as well.
Okay. Is there anything from the commission members regarding the drive-through? Mr. Varga?
Well, I guess we're only looking at this plan, right?
Yeah, right now, we're just looking at the drive-through, yeah.
Right, but I mean, if he's suggesting that they'll do something different, should we table this? Because we don't know what you're gonna do.
Right, so the only concern with what we would have is we lose parking spaces by having it further back. And with a double drive-through use, not sure how much stacking would really be relevant considering the fact that our turnover times are relatively quick, less than 2 minutes, 30 seconds per transaction.
So we're only really looking at this drive-through, the
Right.
one that's in front of us.
Right now.
And let me just finish my thought. That number 2 condition, it may not seem that obvious from how it's written, but ultimately it may require you to go out and shut down your drive-through line if it's going all the way to the street. We do that with a lot of car washes and things like that. When they get too busy, they have to come out, they have to shut it off, they have to block the entrance. They become responsible for that. I'm not saying it necessarily applies. I don't know if it'll ever apply here, but I just want you to know what that condition suggests.
Understand? Yep.
Kathy, if we approve a drive-through, but the drive-through is going to change on a future site plan, do we have to have another public hearing?
Well, you're approving the use.
Just
Of
the
use of a drive-through. You can
Okay.
modify the site plan, and the site plan can be tabled, at least in my opinion. And,
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
So, I mean, if you agree with the use and allowance of it, then
And
that could
ultimately,
be-
at some time, it's going to be a drive-through.
Yeah,
Okay,
but the site plan is second on the
Correct.
agenda, and you could still have that modified.
Correct.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think also with adding condition number 2, where the commission maintains jurisdiction, I think that protects us either way then. You can always come back
Okay.
if it becomes a problem.
Is there any other? Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 2 conditions?
Second.
Paul, please call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Thiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. And under new business, we have a site plan alteration and architectural reimaging of a restaurant, Popeyes, at 7635 Manor Avenue. So let's talk a little bit more about the site plan and the reimaging.
Do you mind if I have one of my architects?
Absolutely
come back
not.
here?
Just state your name and address for Paul, and
Thank you very much.
so,
Good evening. I'm Tony Mites with RSA Architects,
Can you spell that last name, sir?
spelled M-A-J-C.
Thank you.
And like Paul introduced, taking a look at the existing Wendy's across the street from Best Buy. I think everybody kind of knows that.
speak a little bit more into the mic.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And looking at reimaging the restaurant. So part of the reimaging consists of pulling off of the mansard roof and replacing the parapet with a new straight parapet that falls in line with the guidelines of Popeye's new corporate imagery. Existing brick is going to be remain. Planning on staining some of the existing brick for the new colors. I know our drawings over there say that we're painting, but I think we're going to stain the brick there. And we've got new drive-it parapets and a little bit of masonry work and some new color for the storefront. So kind of straightforward design that RBI, who's our parent company, puts out design guidelines for adaptive reuse and for reimaging of the buildings. I brought with me too some kind of color samples so you can see the tones of the colors if you guys are interested in. Pass that forward if anybody wants to look.
Could you talk about, sir, the fact that on the plans that they had originally received, it was cement board, and now you're talking about stucco finish?
Yeah, correct. So the original drawings, we just used the word cement board like you would use the word Xerox, and the idea was that it was going to be a prefabricator, pre-manufactured material that would then be colored the same way. And when we started digging a little bit more into it, we determined that the best use of material there would be to do a drive-it / stucco. So that will be done with a drive-it. And there's a sample that's kind of being rotated around.
Yeah, on the screen, it actually looks blue, so you really want to see that.
Yeah, it's more like a whitewash. It's supposed to be kind of like a whitewash tan.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga?
There's, on the second, the image that's right there now, this image, I see it looks a little different there. It almost looks black on the, there's a black, heavy black stripe there. But now I'm looking at it, I almost see something else. What is that?
I think it's a shadow line. It's an artistic interpretation, so it's a shadow line.
Okay, I'm not talking about up there, I'm talking about down here. The second image down, right,
There.
that, right there, that real heavy line there. What's that?
A
That's not
canopy?
shadow. Is that a canopy? On the drawing I have, it
That's-
just looks black, and that's why I'm not sure
I
what it
got you.
is.
Yeah, I think what you're looking at is the canopy that's off to the side there.
It's the same canopy as this.
Yes.
Okay, I understand, now I understand.
Thank you. Is Kathy, anything from administration?
The commission will need to update item number 4, because right now, the way the item 4 reads, condition 4, proposed color of the cement board and painted brick shall be clarified. So I think we should update that to at least read the stucco finish. Or if you even want to say that, or even need number 4, because we do have the colors now. So that was just one item to point out. And then, I don't know if you wanted to comment on the landscaping at all, as far as what we've conditioned, recommended.
I don't have a comment regarding the landscaping. I know that we will be doing something with landscaping on there, but we have not yet dove into that.
Okay. Is it not a requirement that we have a landscape proposal at this point?
Well, they'll have to provide it at least with the building permit review, and we'll review it at
We
that
won't be
point.
seeing it again.
You can if you want it,
I'm not, I just,
but we've outlined the conditions for the landscaping and.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to do anything different in terms of landscape, hardscape. So there isn't any green area that we're going to be taking away and turning it into a hardscape area. So the idea is to reuse the building and use what we have and modify what we need to.
Let's circle back a little bit to the drive-through. So to solve the stacking, I know that gentleman mentioned that you may utilize the existing, I think we've all gone to Wendy's here before, right? We all knew it was a little bit of a unique of a drive-through, to say the least. So if you have stacking issues, I mean, I just know this site, and I think you're gonna run into a problem.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can comment to relative to the way the Popeyes operates, that's a little bit different than the way the Wendy's operates, is kind of similar to newer Chick-fil-A restaurants where they have room on the site. So they have 2 ordering pedestals, so cars come in via one line, and then they can split apart into two lines relative to stacking. So what you see there on that drawing is something that was initially concepted and was then given to RBI, who's the parent company, for their review, and they take some time and take a look at the site and the demographics, and they give us some indication of, like, yeah, that's good to go, you can proceed in that direction, or do something completely different. So that's the first blush at it, where everybody thinks it's going to work. But like Paul had said previously, if there is a concern from the board and from the city that y'all know the site much better than we do, and that there is going to be stacking issues, we do have the ability to take those ordering pedestals and move further back into the site. So what that'll effectively do is kind of alleviate the time frame of the stacking, and then also add vehicles to it because you're double curving into it.
I think one of the issues is lunchtime on Manor Avenue is busy. And so you guys might be able to get the food out, but if they can't get out of the parking lot, your line is going to back up real fast.
Sure.
So that's the concern that we have.
Sure.
Because you try to make a left out of there at lunch, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's a good right-hand turn lane.
Yeah.
And if you've, Mr. Chairman, if you've ever seen Chick-fil-A in Manor, you know that stacking of 11 cars would definitely not be sufficient for that site. So if you anticipate any type of flow of cars in that regard, you're going to need more stacking, I would think. And I would hate for you to move forward with this, get everything set up with the drive-through and go, holy cow, we need way more room. So it's something to think about. for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. I agree, and I definitely take that into consideration. There's no benefit for us to place the ordering pedestals in a closer proximity versus a further proximity. Actually, the benefit is to make it work so it works for everyone. So we want to be able to take the orders, keep the people off of Manor Avenue, and turn them around and let them exit.
Okay, thank you.
Do we want to table this so that we can see the alternate, the proposed site plan? I'm throwing that out.
Well, if we're retaining jurisdiction over the traffic,
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
we can
I guess we could, yeah.
revisit it whenever
Yeah,
we want.
that's true. It just
Guess-
it becomes
I
a
guess we could-
problem then. you know.
We could ask the administration, I mean, would you feel more comfortable if we tabled it and you want to see something else, or would you rather we move it forward, if it were up to you?
We talked about both ways internally when we were reviewing this. And I guess our answer was, well, if they're comfortable with that number of spaces, they know their product, they know their users. At the same time, it doesn't sound like they're 100% with this design. So I mean, I think personally, if they're not completely clear on that, we don't want another situation like we've had similarly where they've come back and keep changing it either. So I guess it's a question for the applicant, how definitively they want to move forward with this design or not.
I can answer some of that. So the actual design will remain unchanged in terms of how the ordering works. What we have the ability to revise is pushing it further back on the lot. And by pushing it further back on the lot, every 20 feet gets you an additional vehicle. So I think the conditional use was whether or not we can do drive-through. And it sounds like people are in favor of doing a drive-through. And I don't think that we mind going back to take a look at this and amending the site plan. I mean, we will have full civil drawings, we'll have mechanical, electrical, architectural drawings that are going to be submitted for building review and approval. So I think, you know, we'll definitely follow through with that. This is definitely not the last what we're intending on. But the actual configuration of the order pedestal and the second order pedestal, the island where it stacks behind the building, that's going to remain. It's just a function of whether or not Paul and the group decides to pull it further back, like you saw the stacking lines, so to speak, in the photos of the Wendy's.
Mr. Chairman,
But that's gonna change the parking, and
Yep.
if you bring that north, that changes the whole site. And it just doesn't sound like, I'd hate to see it open up, and then all of a sudden it's jam, and
Yeah,
now you have
absolutely.
the city out there, and you're closing your drive-through.
And we don't want
I
that.
think we should do our due diligence now, and you guys should take another look at it, because we all live here. We've all been to this Wendy's, and I can tell you, that's gonna stack out on 20.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're limited to what the site actually has to offer.
Right.
And with regards to the parking, if, you know, you guys can visualize, you're literally taking those parking spaces and pushing them forward and taking the turn stack and pushing it back. That's all we can really do on the site. And out of those parking spaces, You have 6 of them in the widths, if you add them together, basically allows you to stack another 3 vehicles. So you can stack 3 vehicles going in and 3 vehicles coming out, so that's 6 vehicles above and beyond what we have right now.
Right,
Beyond that, there's nothing else we can do.
right.
So we can push it all the way back, but that's all we can do.
Yeah,
And we
right,
can't
we understand.
promise that people aren't going to love Popeyes and want to be backing
That's the
up on
hope.
the road. You know,
It's
so-
in the slogan, isn't it?
It is, it is. And, you know, every once in a while, they have that crazy hot chicken sandwich that people,
Mr. Chair, may I make a suggestion?
Ms. Small,
I know our biggest concern, which is not coming into the building, it's exiting. It's the right and the left, the fact that they can go both ways. Would it be a suggestion to just do a right out only and avoid the left turn, and therefore we wouldn't have nearly as much backup?
honestly, I can't speak to that without consulting everybody, seeing how that really works.
I don't know if that's something that we could do, but
Usually if the city engineer wants a write-out only, they would make the comment, and I don't believe they did. It currently has the flexibility to do both now. So we generally defer to them on that.
And I think all the other businesses have the ability to turn right or left. My concern with going, in this area at least, of Manor Avenue would be, to do that would be, if you didn't let them turn left, then they'd be driving down the street and making U-turns, and that might actually be more dangerous in the long run than,
I'm trying to think, is it, yeah, because there's not a light for a while.
yeah.
it's tough because, and I think, again, we go back to all our experiences.
Yeah.
We kind of know when we can make a left on 20, and we know when we can't. And you know, we all know those spots on 20, and I think the people that have been to Wendy's through the years and now will go to Popeyes, we'll figure it out.
So,
The other thing to take into consideration is the rear of the building, which is not addressed on this plan, but that is a rear entrance. And we talked about that a lot internally, is the current handicap entrance of the site. With the drive-through configuration the way it is, there's really no clear definition of how you get to that. If there's cars stacked
Yeah.
in there, it's really almost becomes an unusable door. So there are some benefits to pulling back the drive-through also, just even for that reason alone. We also wanted to see, and this is a good view, but that cooler has just been there forever. We'd like to see that screened, so that would be nice to get some of the landscaping on the plan as well.
I think we're at a moment of, I'll entertain a motion.
I'm going to entertain a motion to table.
Second.
To get and just to get more landscaping shown, some of these issues addressed, and a more definitive final solution for the
Drive-through.
drive-through. And there was a second.
Paul, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon,
Yes.
Ms. Small,
Yes.
Tiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Varga,
Yes.
Mr. Crocker,
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Miscellaneous review to allow 2 7,500 square foot temporary tents as a staging area at 9669 Manor Avenue. Said applicant here. No? Okay.
Motion to table.
Second.
Paul, please call the roll.
Thank you. Mr. Haddon,
Yes.
Ms. Small,
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker,
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. And the architectural reimaging of a car dealership, Classic Hyundai at 8460 Tyler Boulevard. That applicant has asked for that to be tabled, so at this moment, I'll entertain a motion to table.
So moved.
Second.
Paul, please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Haddon,
Yes.
Ms. Small,
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann,
Yes.
Mr. Varga.
Yes.
Mr. Crocker,
Yes.
Mr. Cook.
Yes. Anything from the administration?
Oh, maybe just a recommendation to bring your sleeping bags to the next meeting.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
No move.